The presidency says the ministerial list is not ready amidst all of the expectations and speculations. We analyze the decisions of President Bola Tinubu today in signing some executive orders and suspending some tax regime. We find out if this good for Nigeria or bad. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Abuja. So tonight we have quite a long list on our menu of our conversation tonight. One of it is the tax decision and the policy statement made by the presidency today. Suspension of the 5% tax on excise on telecommunication services, and a host of other issues has been raised on taxation and some aspect of revenue under the Bola Tinubu administration. What does this mean for the average Nigerian? Does it make the poor poorer, or does it make the rich richer, or what makes the poor richer? Or what does this mean for the average Nigerian and all of these policies? Some those who say, look, this is what Buhari has done before. What is the difference? So we'll find out tonight and give you analysis on it. So, of course, we'll also be hearing on the ministerial list. A lot of names have been thrown up. People were talking about who will make it and who will not make it, those speculations and those expectations. Well, you know what the law said? There is a new law being signed by President Buhari that is only going to be 2 months after a president or governor will have to take before transmitting the names of ministerial or commissioner nominees to the National Assembly or the State Assembly, as the case may be. We're looking into all of this. But then, one of those who called at the presidential villa today is the chairman of Nigerian Population Commission, Mr. Nasir Kwara, who met with President Bola Tinubu at the presidential villa. And after that meeting, he said that then the date for the census will be announced by the president. Of course, Mr. Ayo Fayose, former governor of Ekiti State, also visited the president. All of this issue we're bringing to you. But first, let's have you with your political roundup stories.
The All Progressives Congress in Kano State has told the immediate past governor of the state, Mr. Abdullahi Ganduje, not to honor the invitation extended to him by the State Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission over a purported dollar video. In a statement jointly signed by the chairman and secretary of the party, Abdullahi Abbas and Zakari Sarina, the party says it has realized that the reenactment of the politically motivated issue of the dollar video by the new Nigeria People's Party, which is before a court of law, is part of a sinister ploy to dent the image of the former governor. The statement further explains that a similar scenario was used to scuttle the former governor's chance of securing ticket for the party's governorship election in 2019. The House of Representatives is urging President Tinubu to consult with the political, traditional and religious leaders in neighboring state and southeast to find a lasting solution to the insecurity in the region. This follows a motion by Honorable Eze Nwachukwu on the need to forestall further killings in neighboring state. According to the lawmaker, 2 persons were reported dead and 20 persons sustained various degrees of bodily injuries. The House is worried that despite similar occurrences across the state, police and other relevant security agencies are yet to adopt workable measures to abate further killings in the area. Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Abuja has granted a 50 million naira bail to suspended DCP Abba Kyari in a charge in which he and 2 of his siblings are accused of failing to declare assets at National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA. The NDLEA had filed a 24-count charge against Kyari and his 2 siblings, Mohammed Baba Kyari and Ali Kyari, in respect of which they were arraigned in June. In a ruling, Justice James Omotosho granted conditional bail to Abba Kyari in the sum of 50 million naira with 2 sureties in like sum. Justice Omotosho added that the sureties must have property worth 25 million naira within the Federal Capital Territory, amongst other conditions. The judge held that even when Abba Kyari meets with the bail conditions, the endorsement of his release warrant is subject to developments in a sister case before Justice Emeka Wite of the Federal High Court Abuja, in which he has been tried with 4 others on alleged involvement in dealing with illicit drugs. Justice Omotosho said despite the Kuje prison jailbreak by terrorists on July 5, 2022, Kyari refused to escape, where about 90% of the inmates escaped freely. Members of the People's Democratic Party in Abia State House of Assembly today staged a walkout during the plenary session over what they described as an undemocratic practice in the selection of principal officers of the House. The PDP members, led by Honorable Solomon Akolonu, told journalists that though their action was peaceful, he's insisting that the Speaker should adhere to the rules of the House in appointment of officers.
Instead of fighting, the best thing for you to do is to excuse yourself so that the other people will know that you are not happy.
Residents of Trademore Estate in the Lugbe area of Abuja have petitioned the permanent secretary of the Federal Capital Territory Administration, Mr. Olushade Adeshola, over the planned demolition of more than 60 houses in the residential estate. In a petition signed by the estate's lawyer, Mike Zokome SAN, the residents debunked insinuations that the estate has no development plan approval. The senior lawyer said the estate was developed in 2007 and no case of flooding was recorded until recently. The residents had on Monday shut their gates in protest against the planned demolition of structures in the estate by officials of the Federal Capital Development Authority.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your time tonight on the program. Let's get straight to it. Let's first and foremost tell you about the census. You may be asking the question. We've seen the date removed under President Buhari, but what is the status? What is the state of things? The chairman of the Nigerian Population Commission, Mr. Nasir Kwara, has met with the president today at the presidential villa. After that meeting, Mr. Kwara told the journalists that the date of the census will be announced very soon by President Bola Tinubu. Take a listen to him.
You recall that in May 2023, with former President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, when a decision was taken to postpone the census to allow the new administration to not just partake in it, but to own it and drive the process to its logical conclusion. Today, I had the opportunity of briefing our new president, who has so far taken right steps in the right direction, and we consider this step as a right step. So we briefed him fully on the level of our preparedness, the outcomes that we envisage. And I'd like to say that Mr. President has graciously approved to support the Commission in the conduct of the census. And our preparatory activities, though, were not stopped at all, but he has given us the courage, the impetus to upscale our preparation.
That's the chairman of the Nigerian Population Commission, Mr. Nasir Kwara. Another person who called at the State House today is the governor of, former governor of Ekiti State, Mr. Ayodele Fayose. He met with the president, and after the meeting was just a few minutes ago, and this is what he had to say after the meeting.
From day one, I made it very clear that the president will not do well. I did not hide. I was open to it, and I said it repeatedly. May I say to you, sir, ladies and gentlemen of the press, let me tell you, if Ashiwaju turns back on his promise, all he said when he was campaigning, I will be the first to talk. I am not timid, and I don't shy away from facing challenges. But the man I have seen today, I don't eulogize and I don't praise to curry favor. I am no more a small boy. Let me tell you, the man I saw today, and for the actions we have seen, means well for Nigeria.
You heard it, former Governor Ayodele Fayose of Ekiti State after visiting President Bola Tinubu today. Now, there's some clarifications that were to be made. First and foremost, let me tell you about INEC's position and those infractions and breaches on the 2023 election. The commission has come out to say they have gotten a report from the Nigerian police, and today they made an announcement in a statement that they filed a 6-count charge against Mr. Yunusa Ari, the INEC Adamawa rec, who made a declaration of Senator Binani as a winner of the Adamawa governorship election, which the headquarters of INEC disowned. Man has now been charged to court, and that trial is expected to resume. A date has then been fixed on that matter. There are some decisions that have been made today at the presidential villa. Some include what we need to dissect properly if it's in the favor of the Nigerian people, the average, the poor, masses of our population. Now, there are speculations, of course, about who is going to be in President Tinubu's cabinet. And we're getting some reactions from the presidency about that. This is what they have to say. Don't forget that by law now, the president has 60 days which he needs to transmit the names of nominees to be in his cabinet to the National Assembly. No longer an extended time in which Nigerians are going to be expecting. He now has within 60 days. He's spent about 37 days or thereabout since the assumption of office, since he was sworn in. Even the governors of the 36 states of the Federation are also affected by the amendment of the Constitution. They also have 60 days upon which they need to transmit the names of nominees to the State Assembly. This is what the presidency had to say about those who could be the ministers under Tinubu presidency.
We are not running a parliamentary system. So the president, the box stops on his table, and he decides when it's fit and proper for him to make his cabinet list. No, we are not unaware of all the speculations and innuendos and rumors, all kinds of things in the media. But I, as a media man, I chuckle to myself that people want to sell, so they just fabricate. I can tell you all of those things you'll be reading in the media are mere fabrications. There's no iota of truth in all of those things. When the president is good and ready, you will be the first to know about his intentions. The president Tinubu is still within the time frame, and so there's no issue there.
That exactly was not, in fact, the primary purpose of that press conference at the State House. The real reason for the press conference is this. The president signed 4 executive orders today, one of which is the suspension of the 5% excise tax on telecommunication services, as well as the excise duties escalation on locally manufactured products. The special advisor to the president, Mr. Dele Alake, was one who reviewed these to Nigerians today at that press conference. And part of the plan is also to eradicate multiple tax regime. Let me allow you to listen to what this is all about.
President Bola Tinubu, in fidelity to the pledge to put Nigerians at the center of government policies, has signed the following executive orders. Executive Order 1, the Finance Act, Effective Date Variation Order 2023, has now deferred the commencement date of the changes contained in the Act from May 28, 2023 to to September 1, 2023. This is to ensure adherence to the 90 days minimum advance notice for tax changes as contained in the 2017 National Tax Policy. Executive Order 2, the Customs Excise Tariff Variation Amendment Order 2023. This has also shifted the commencement date of the tax changes from March 27, 2023 to August 1, 2023, and also in line with the National Tax Policy. Order 3. The President has given an order suspending the 5% tax on telecommunication services as well as excise duties escalation on locally manufactured goods. 4. Further to his commitment to creating a business-friendly environment, the President has ordered the suspension of the newly introduced green tax by way of excise tax on single-use plastics, including plastic containers and bottles. In addition, the President has ordered the suspension of import tax adjustment levy on certain categories of vehicles, like I said earlier.
All right, that's Mr. Dele Alake. Announcing the decision of the President to sign those executive orders. Now, let's make sense of all of these tonight, everyone. I'm being joined by the National Chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council and the 2023 presidential candidate, Alhaji Abajisani. Thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thank you, Sharon, for having me.
And I also have virtually joining us Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, his fiscal policy partner and Africa tax leader at the PwC. It's good to see you again, Mr. Oyedele. Thanks so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Before I drag you into the tax net, the tax matter tonight, let me first and foremost engage Alhaji Abajisani in some political matters. INEC has decided to, file a six-count charge. They said there is now a prima facie case against Mr. Yunusa Ari. And these are some of the issues that have been raised about those who've committed some form of infractions on our elections to be brought to book. Now, our laws have said, look, a man is innocent until proven otherwise in the court of law. What is your view on this as a man who is leading a group of political parties under the IPAC umbrella?
Well, I think INEC has done what we expected him to do. I'm talking about the chairman now, and then, of course, INEC as a body. In any situation where there's no discipline, what you find is a total, disorganization. And INEC needs to be disciplined. I mean, the staff working for INEC needs to be disciplined. And the man that has now been charged, to court, that is long overdue, because the kind of impunity that was displayed, by which the man violated all the INEC, rules, extant laws, is something that beats one's imagination. Because you will expect that somebody at that level should be able to know the implications of doing what he did. But this is, a country
and perhaps a lawyer too.
Perhaps a lawyer too. And so what INEC has done is what political parties, and I'm sure indeed Nigerians.
Maybe he has a reason for doing what he did.
No, whatever reasons he has, I'm not sure is above the law. And it's a high time that, people who are supposed to defend the law, protect the law, who are protected by the law themselves, should respect, the laws of the land. And people should, politics is about the most serious business, that you can talk about when you are talking about a nation. Because how do you form a government? If you don't have a system that is corruption-free to a very large extent, then what you produce will be leaders that will not respect, the laws of the country. And you have corruption, you have all sorts of infractions, in discharging their duties. So I think INEC has done what all of us expected them to do, and I'm sure everybody will be happy that, this is happening, because it's high time, it happened. And I think, and again, they are still studying other cases. It's not only the Adamawa, issue. There are other cases that I believe.
There's Sokoto, there is Abia.
There's Abia, and all those ones, I'm sure, will be used as a deterrent, because we need to start showing that we're a serious country. And if we toy with the future of this country by way of handling our elections with such levity, we will be for long, be in vicious cycle. There will be no any progress economically, socially, politically, and we need to be serious. And I think this action by INEC has just demonstrated that they really mean business.
Especially the kind of uproar and the kind of agitation that the outcome of the election brought.
Exactly.
Also, now recently, what the EU report and some of the issues raised, those who believe that now then there's really nothing new that the local observer, the Nigerian observer, had not raised, that EU has raised, and some of the explanations that have been made by INEC, perhaps we're hearing them for the first time, one of which was Mr. Festus Okoye's response to some of the issues, and I guess you were able to watch that.
Yes.
And you think that INEC probably needs some explanation to Nigerians, isn't it?
Well, I think as a responsible agency, yes, they do, because even without Nigerians asking them, ordinarily, they will come out to explain to us, tell Nigerians what exactly is happening, because it's a democracy. And the information that INEC may have, it belongs to the public. So for Festus Okoye to come and say the things he said, I think it's in order, and they should do more, because if you remember, the only reason why we have so much, misgivings, so much suspicion, is because information was not flowing, from INEC, especially when we had, the problems at the time of counting of the results and declaration of results and things like that. So communication is key, especially in this kind of...
You can't leave gap for any kind of speculation.
Yeah, people will start making speculations and say, oh, this one has done this, one has done... Whereas it may not be the case.
And we have 3 elections before the end of this year.
Exactly. The EU reports, like you rightly said, there's nothing that EU says which we don't know. Especially we, the political parties, we are the key stakeholders. Yeah. Yes, we are the key stakeholders. So we know what happened, and we know the solutions. We of course, with due respect, we are not saying that they cannot provide solutions or recommend solutions. They can, but this is Nigeria. We are Nigerians. We are the key players. We should know where the shoe pinches. So the issue is that it's okay. The EU says what they want to say, but I believe that the information coming, for instance, very soon we'll release our own findings as far as the election, the 2023 election is concerned. We have a committee that is studying it, and definitely when we come out, on how democracy can be, move forward, it would be something different from what EU has given.
One stop before we get into the tax matter. The speculations about President Tinubu's cabinet. This is not the first time that Nigerians are expectant, looking forward to. Why is that of President Tinubu perhaps more than perhaps what we've seen in the past? Why?
Well, the issue is that, you see, the expectation of Nigerians is that we have been taken for, shall I say, taken for a ride
for too long,
as a nation for too long. And things are not working in the interest of the masses. The lot of the masses is every day, degrading. The situations are getting worse and worse by the day. So this is why when a president has come who says, I know the solution, I can solve the solution, I can solve the problems, and he has the track record that speaks for him, that yes, this man has the capacity, he has the knowledge, he can do it, then people, of course, expectation will be very high. And they'll say, okay, please, get on with the job. So this is why, I believe Nigerians are so anxious about hearing from him.
Perhaps also because he's also someone who had also shown that he knows how to put together quality persons around him.
Exactly. That's why I said the track records that he has. What he did in Lagos.
The expectations are...
Even the first few days in power, in fact, from the inauguration, his swearing in, where he was sworn in, he hit the ground running, and then that's why Nigerians are expecting more, because yes, it's okay to reduce, to take such hard decisions, which of course will come with some hard, repercussions. But government is such an institution that can provide solutions, especially when it comes to cushioning effects of some of these hard decisions that he has taken. And the one thing that I want the government to also be very careful about is they keep saying that they want a government of national competence. Yes, national competence, but you also want to have a government that is effective. And this is a political environment. It's not a business enterprise that all you are looking for is profit. You're also looking for goodwill. It's important. It's not just that somebody is efficient. Efficient is good. Effectiveness in politics is also very important. What am I saying? Don't say that, those who help me to get to where I am, do not have the knowledge, the technical. I'm not saying that they should go for people that cannot do the job. But the issue is that although the Constitution has made provisions that would have taken care of what I'm trying to say, meaning that you must take a minister from at least
every state.
Every state. But there are other appointments that are coming, which the president's at liberty, to appoint.
For example, if Bola Tinubu appoints you to be a minister, would you accept it?
To serve the nation, of course. Why wouldn't I? Because we're all of us, you will also accept whether you like it or not.
I may not. I mean, you never can tell. Yeah.
No, but you never can tell. But
I love this job so much.
I know, but you can also do perhaps, in a better.
This is serving the nation.
Exactly.
As a voice of the people.
In the most effective way, really. What you are doing. I really appreciate what you are doing. Everybody appreciates. Nigeria appreciates.
Thank you.
But when time comes for you to step forward and say, okay, please, come and serve this nation, because we identify that you have certain qualities that the nation needs at this point in time. I'm sure as a compatriot, somebody who loves this nation, you may not reject, per se.
So getting people from other political parties could mean a cabinet of national unity, right?
I think it is important that inclusivity is also upheld in whatever the president wants to do, meaning that other political parties, there's something wrong, for instance, in saying that every political party gets a slot, say maybe a chairman of a board or something like that, if you can't give them ministerial slots. What it does is that it deepens democracy. It gives democracy that, respect that people need, and it makes people to now work for the nation. It doesn't, it won't be a case of, no, it's their government, don't worry, So that's what I'm saying.
We've seen the likes of Mr. Fayoshe and the Reds. A lot of names are being thrown up. He's in the villa. There are a lot of people who are not members of the APC who have gone to see President Tinubu. We'll see how all this pans out. Let's get into the taxation matter. Mr. Oyede, let me bring you in this matter. And first and foremost, I'd like us to clarify this. You are the expert here on this tax issue. But for those of us who follow the news and who are journalists, perhaps some things sounds like deja vu to us. When you hear this, for example, the 5%, the suspension of the 5% telecoms services on, and you hear that the President Buhari, former President Buhari, had already done that in the past. Is it an error, in your opinion, or what exactly, or this is another aspect of it that we do not know?
Thank you, Phil. So I think to provide the background, so the Finance Act of 2021, I believe it was, about 2 years ago, introduced a provision to impose excise tax at, at that time, the rate was not specified, but the legal framework was provided to impose excise tax on telecommunication services. That would be your airtime, that would be data, all services from telco companies. And in that amendment that was done by the National Assembly, it says that the president, by an order, can prescribe the rate and the commencement of that tax. So in 2022, last year, so the president then, through the amendment to the customs tariff order, introduced a 5% tax on telecommunication. But the problem, so there were a number of problems. One is, based on the law, Nigeria has never had excise on services. We only had it on goods like tobacco, beer, spirit. And the authority that collects excise duty is the Customs Service. So the Nigerian Customs Service has no capacity. They don't even understand how to administer excise on services, because they used to go into factories to man the gates and collect the taxes. So as a result of that, the tax has never been collected. The second problem was that the industry said, well, we're paying so many taxes. At the time, they said they were paying over 33 different taxes. And you will recall that the former Minister for Telecommunication and Digital Economy went to the president at the time, former President Buhari, and came out and gave a press release to say that, well, a press briefing, that Mr. President has agreed to suspend the tax, but nothing was documented. And then around April, towards the end of the last administration, the finance minister issued a fiscal policy measure, which was subsequently gazetted to say, well, by the way, that excise on telecommunication is still in place. It was such a confusing way of managing tax affairs. So what the president has done now, the new president, President Tinubu has done now, is to say, you know what, let's just suspend this tax and have maybe a more meaningful conversation, analysis, impact assessment, and decide whether we want it in the current format, whether we want it in a different format, or maybe we don't even want it at all.
All right. So let's get it straight. The Buhari government, through the minister, said it, but in reality, it wasn't done. So under Tinubu now, it is now done. I mean, well, it's verbally said today. So we are hoping that the suspension takes effect from today practically. Is that the case?
That's correct. I think it's even fair to say that the former President Buhari's administration officially said that the tax was in place, because the only thing that he said in terms of the tax being suspended was only just said verbally, not even by the minister in charge, it was by the Minister for Telecommunications. So I think what has happened now is officially the government has now suspended the tax. But like I said earlier on, it was not even collected even before the suspension. So in a way, it doesn't have any impact on the people, but it has prevented an impact that could have increased the cost of telecommunication services and maybe even push more people into poverty.
All right. So, Mr. Oyedele, I would like you to do something for me, right? And I will tax you to this duty tonight to be able to break it down. For some of us who are laymen in this kind of conversation, the figures and the numbers are not very familiar to us, but you need to help us break it down in 30 seconds, because I need to go on the commercial break now. But in 30 seconds, today's 4 executive orders, how does it affect the food on the table of the poor in Nigeria? Would they feel it at all?
Absolutely. They'll feel it a lot. So the 4 executive orders, apart from postponing the commencement dates for the Finance Act and the Custom and Excise Tariff Amendment Order, it suspends the excise tax on telecommunication, which means you won't have to pay more for your telecommunication services.
For those who buy airtime and data, is that right?
Yes.
So if you are buying what you pay for the charge card in layman language will be reduced.
Yes, it will not go up. No, it will not reduce, but it will not go up.
It will not go up.
It was meant to go up before. The tax that was going to make it go up has now been suspended. So it will not reduce unless, of course, the telcos have the right to reduce if they feel like. But as a result of this tax, it will not reduce, but it also will not go up. If it has not been suspended, it would have gone up. So the second one that they did was the suspension of tax on single-use plastic. So what that means is, if you go to the mall and you buy anything, they give you a plastic bag, plastic bottles, you would have had to pay more for all those products that are packaged using single-use plastic bags. And you would have, that would have been another inflation for us. So that has been prevented. Another one is the manufacture of tobacco and alcoholic beverages. The excise duty on them were being escalated significantly. And that would have been, for those who buy those products, the prices would have gone up. And if you
drink beer, if you drink whiskey, if you drink any form of alcohol, you now pay more. If you smoke cigarettes, you will pay more. That is what it means, right?
You would have had to pay more, but this has been suspended, so you don't pay more now because those are locally manufactured goods.
Okay.
And also because in the past administration of President Buhari, had agreed the increases from 2022 to 2024 already, and that was running. What they did was they interrupted that agreement and escalated the rates. And this president is saying, well, that's not right. If you agree fiscal policy, in the interest of consistency, you should follow through.
All right.
So I think that's the right thing that they have done now.
So, yeah.
And the last one is the...
just hold on for me, Mr. Oyedele. I'll come to you just in a moment because I need to go on a commercial break and we'll expatiate more and get also the view of Alhaji Abajis on this. Stay with me, everyone. Because, look, whatever the policy of government is, how does this affect the average person? That is the bottom line. That is our concern right here on this program. And that's what we'll be dealing with. Tinubu's policies on taxation and executive order, 4 of them that were signed today. We'll be digging deeper into them after now. Join us again, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, a very senior tax expert at the PwC, has been speaking with us, and as well as Mr. Yabaji Sani, 2023 presidential candidate and the national chairman of Inter-Party Advisory Council. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time tonight. Before I come to you quickly, we're going to talk about the 4th one out of the executive orders. Which is it?
Yes, sure. So the 4th one was the green tax. You know, Nigeria signed up to net zero CO2 commitment, and so therefore there has been some attempt to try and implement that. And the past administration introduced, towards the tail end of the administration, a green tax on vehicles, and that's they call import adjustment tax. And it was going to be applicable to vehicles with capacity. That's the engine capacity of 2 liter, or what you call 2,000 cc. And then if it goes up to 4,000 cc, the tax you have to pay goes up even further. And you need to bear in mind already there's about 40% import duties and levy on importation of vehicles. So this is going to be on top of it. So President Tinubu has now suspended that tax as well, on the basis that just imagine removing fresh subsidy, transportation cost has gone up. Why would you want to even impose any tax whatsoever on transportation of vehicle, whether it's imported or locally produced? So this I also think is good news for the ordinary man on the street, and that at least the burden that we have to bear at this time is not going to be further complicated and worsened by additional taxes.
So Nigeria has a commitment to the climate change adaptation and mitigation on environmental degradation. The IAT levy of 2% on motor vehicles of 2,000 cc to 3,900 cc was introduced, while 4,000 cc and above will be taxed at 4%. But all of these policies and decisions made today, I'll come back to you, Mr. Oyedele, because I need to know what is on the mind of President Tinubu, the bigger picture. We want to know it. All of these policies, either monetary or fiscal policies that are coming in trickles, there should be a bigger picture. We've just seen a patch of the painting. We want to know what exactly he's trying to paint and what it means economically. That's why tonight we're saying Tinubunomics, whatever that means. Tonight we're looking at his ideas. He says renewed hope. Whether truly Nigerians' hope are renewed, we'll be dissecting it further. Let me get your view. I mean, from a political point of view, I say as a Harvard graduate, give us an understanding of what this means. Of course, from the average Nigerian's point of view, how does this affect them?
Well, I think
Tinubunomics,
to me, and then I think what will be the best thing for this country is for us to have an alignment between the fiscal policies and monetary policies. It was completely absent in Buhari's administration.
Discordant.
Yes. That's why you had your governor of the central bank now being the Minister of Industries, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of all these things. He was dabbling into fiscal issues. And he left his own stuff. Yes, that's why a lot of things were in the kind of mess that we are in. So if Tinubu is coming and there's an alignment between the monetary policies and the fiscal policies, I think is a good thing. Then coming to the taxation issue, tax is a form of levy which government introduced, which is not linked to any service at all. Government doesn't have to render any service. They just come and we're taxing you. You sell property, you made capital gains. They say pay. So, but government in other climes
where it doesn't work.
Well, it doesn't work. But in other climes, industries like telecommunication, it's monitored. For instance, if you make a call and then the provider say that you have consumed 1 minute of airtime, how do you know it's 1 minute of airtime? Whereas government has a department that's supposed to monitor these things for you, and they charge fees. So it will be now an activity-driven fees, service-rendered fees, and then it will impact positively on the consumer, because the consumer now, we don't know, they say 1 minute. Is it really 1 minute that you have consumed? Who is monitoring those meters? Who checks those meters that they use to monitor? So that's why I said cancelling that.
I like you about when all of this issue about tax came up, and I was listening and watching and reading reactions of Nigerians. There are those who were thinking maybe Tinubu is taking us to the UK kind of tax regime. In the UK, the tax is there, seems to be a bit. Robust in such a way that upon everything, those in the UK will tell you, Mama Charlie will tax you, you have to pay all of those things.
Yes, but when you consume.
But when you consume, So are we tilting towards that tendency?
No, it makes for an efficient, economy. It makes also for an efficient government, because people now will become aware of the responsibilities.
So it's looking like Nigerians will be taxed more.
Well, tax more may not be what, but will be taxed appropriately, so that you become now yourself. You will now hold.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing.
To the already depleted revenue of the average person. That's why I said appropriately. Due to inflation.
That's why I said appropriately.
And the rise in cost of commodities.
That's why I said appropriately, because if you tax appropriately, citizens become the people that will now hold government to account. They say, it's our tax money you are using. How can you go and spend money on these things? How can you just become a councillor? Now you are buying cars and things like that. There's a disconnect between the Commonwealth and the average Nigerian. Average Nigerian does not look at our wealth, our money, as his money. He thinks it's government money, and once you are a government worker, it belongs to you. So taxing appropriately will probably introduce that accountability that nationals now will hold the government to account.
All right.
So that's why I believe to an extent it's good, especially in our climate. But like you said, already Nigerians are...
But the reality is that Nigerians will pay more on tax. That is what it means, right? In reality.
Yeah, in reality. But again, in reality, Nigerians will pay more tax. But in reality, they'll be better off if you do it in the right way.
All right.
I'm not asking for Nigerians to be in any way, put in more hardship than already they are. If anything, we should be talking about now is palliatives. How do we have targeted, intervention by government to cushion this effect of, this hard decision?
The pains are very much out there. They are. You
have to believe me.
And so when people talk, in fact, without reading the body of the story, when you see what came out on the headlines today, there are a lot of people who are already worried. Let me bring back Mr. Oyedele into this conversation. And I'd like to ask you 3 quick questions, Mr. Oyedele. One being the fact that in part of what was said today was the fact that they are trying to eradicate or remove this multiple tax regime. And there is this also belief that in the other administration, our tax organization was very horrible. How bad were things then under the past administration? And was a multiple taxation really bad?
It was bad. It was bad, Cheryl. It was very bad. I have been involved with the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria since 2013. Just trying to address this particular issue of multiple taxation. There was a study that MAN had conducted just by asking their members across different states in Nigeria to tell them the taxes they pay and to provide the receipt. So this is not like they were making it up. So officially, we have over 60 different taxes, but unofficially, some of the states we got about 190 different taxes that manufacturers alone pay. This is not all the taxes in the state, just the one that the manufacturers pay. And the telecom sector, for example, also said that they currently pay over 33 different taxes. But and that goes on and on. But if you drill down and you say, actually, where's Nigeria making tax revenue from? If you look at the records, based on the collection of the FRS and the collection of all the states across the federation, the 99% of the tax revenue is coming from about 7 to 8 different taxes. So the question you're going to ask yourself is, why do you have over 60 official, over 200 unofficial taxes when less than 10 is where the money is coming from? So what's actually happening to Nigerians is that as we speak today, Nigerians are paying so much in taxes, but so little is getting to government because there's a lot of leakages in the middle. So this government, the government of President Tinubu, can actually generate more revenue for government without introducing new taxes and without increasing the rate of existing taxes.
A lot of things are changing. I was at the bank today and I also heard that from the CBN directive, interest has gone to about 18.5% or thereabout. And that means, in fact, when the instrument, the credit is being given from the bank out to the customer, it will go beyond that rate, maybe about 20% or thereabout. And you look at price of commodities and all of that. When Nigerians are hearing this, it brings worry to their heart. It means that they're going to be paying more. What it then means is that even if you had a loan that you are paying back from the bank, that change in the interest rate will affect it, and you'll be paying more interest on the loan that you probably are using to finance a business. But the question is, what is the bigger picture? What do you think, I mean, as a tax expert of several years, when you hear some of these policies, what do you think is going on the mind of President Tinubu that Nigerians are perhaps not aware of?
Yes, let me just briefly comment on your point around the interest rate. You're right. So the monetary policy rate, which is the anchor rate that drives interest rates in the economy, was increased the last time to 18.5%. That's why your bank is saying to you that they're sorry or they have to adjust their own interest rate. But you would recall that President Tinubu on Inauguration Day also said that he believes that interest rate regime is too high. How many people can do any legitimate businesses? If 18.5 is MPR, banks will give to you maybe at 25%. How many people can do any legitimate business at 25% interest rate and have anything left? So the regime of President Tinubu, like he has said, is to try and find a way to bring down interest rates. But that will not happen overnight because we have to also remind ourselves that this is happening globally. Even the US, UK, bigger economies are raising their interest rates just to control inflation. So I think over time, interest rates might be coming down. Now, overall, where do I think that President Tinubu is going with all of this? One, I see a very intentional approach to policy formulation, whereby the president is saying, you know what, let's engage. And that was very clear in the press statement today. Let's engage. Let's use data and let's do impact assessment. And when you are done doing all of that, please give sufficient time for people to adjust. And that was clearly stated in the 2017 National Tax Policy, which was approved by FEC, Federal Executive Council, but was likely ignored by the past administration. The other thing I see is sufficient coordination between policies, fiscal policy, monetary policy in particular, but even other policies around trade, climate and the rest of them. Don't just wake up one day and impose tax on plastic bags when you don't have alternatives, or vehicles when you haven't provided, alternatives, or just start imposing taxes here and there. So I think this government wants to have a coordinated approach towards tax policies, but also broader economic policies of government, and to make them business friendly. How can you actually stimulate growth so that your revenue comes from the growth in the economy rather than trying to take a lot more from the same people who are trying to contribute? It's like having a patient in the intensive care and you say, can you give me a little bit more blood? That's misplaced and that's wrong. So I'm actually very excited at the outlook that I see coming from this current government.
Yeah, and it just brings to mind a particular verse in the Holy Book, which I read today, saying, the hope of the righteous shall be gladness, but the expectation of the wicked shall be perish. I mean, the government that says that renewed hope is his agenda, and in the initial policies of the government, people are feeling the heat. What can you tell Nigerians to expect? Are there possibility of increase or additional taxes to be paid? Perhaps it might also affect their baseline, the bottom line of what goes and comes out of their pocket. Just in 30 seconds, your final thoughts.
Yeah, what I think Nigerians should expect is, number one, the president has committed to dealing with multiple taxation, which means many of the taxes they are dealing with now will be repealed. Maybe remove is the ordinary language to use. Number two is that, it's been hard with the first subsidy removal. But I like to see it as a sacrifice that Nigerians are making. And I'm not trying to play down how hard it is. So what I then expect will happen is the savings from that leakage and also the reforms within the tax system will help government to be able to mobilize sufficient resources, not only at the federal government level. Remember, the money will be shared to all levels, all tiers of government. We want to, and we hope to start seeing very quickly visible progress in terms of the things that really impact the lives of people. If you look at the multidimensional poverty reports, clean water, basic education, healthcare, clinic, those things have to start happening immediately. I'll say from this month, as they start sharing more revenue from FAC. So overall, I think there are better days ahead.
That is a hope that we have, but at the present, initially, there is a pain, hoping that things will get better. And of course, we'll be looking at what the Bola Tinubu administration will be putting in place. I must sincerely thank you, Taiwo Yedele, for your time tonight. Taiwo Yedele, a tax expert with the PwC. Earlier on, we had Alhaji Yabaji Sani, chairman of IPAC. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time tonight. I appreciate it. But that's our show for today.